Okay. So I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, so what I wanted to show you was how we actually implemented Covair and customized it to meet our specific needs within a portion of Northrop Grumman. And so what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the organization and what we were trying to do with Covair. And then I'll actually specifically talk about the incident management entity that I've configured, and that's where I'm going to show you most of the configuration. I'll touch on change management because I know that that's something that a lot of people use. And then I'll show you another little example of a true little help desk that we actually set up for SAP timekeeping. I'll show you a couple examples of some reporting and metrics, and then what we are planning for our future steps. So as an overview, Northrop Grumman is an aerospace company in the U.S., and it's around the U.S. We have 125,000 employees, and we have a shared service organization here near Dallas, Texas, which is where I am. And we have shared finance, shared procurement, shared HR, a lot of shared services. SAP, but we have a lot of add-ons and systems that interface to SAP. And so what we do is we call all of these systems one source. That's what we call the set of common systems that the shared services use, and the sectors that are decentralized across the U.S. is what they use. So the reason I'm telling you one source is because you're going to see screenshots that say one source, not Covair. So Covair is what we purchased to track these issues related to our one-source systems. We did not just use the sort of generic help desk software that was available. We wanted some specific configuration done so that we can track metrics, so that we can route things the way we want them to be routed, so that we can notify people that need to be notified. And so we purchased Covair specifically to manage our one-source system. So we call our system OSSM. So the little entities that we've configured are incident management, and we use this to represent break, fix, and maintenance items related to our one-source systems. These do include changes to our production environment. For example, changes SAP. So in our incident management entity, we have all of the control type process in place and all the fields that we need as far as audit goes, and it's basically the same as a change management, a true generic change management entity that you would see in an ITIL environment. So in our change management entity, what we track there are truly just enhancements to functionality and major development items. Then we have a third entity called requests for enhancements, where people can put in their, things that they'd like to see as enhancements, and we call that wish lists. And then finally, we have a little separate workspace that's specifically for the timekeeping help desk that does answer calls from the tens of thousands of users that put their time into SAP. And I'll show you that. So originally we had Covair back in 2005. It was a completely different product back then, and we actually went off of it and went to HP Service Center in 2008. Back in last year, we decided to go back to Covair specifically because of the fact that there is no development required. We were able to do all the configuration using the standard functionality of Covair. We didn't have to get IT resources involved to do this work for us. So we went live in March. No development was required. So everything I'm showing you is just standard Covair that we have configured. Just to give you a little bit of background of our support structure of the people that use Covair. We have level 2 users, and these are more like end users. They're the first level support for the true end users. They're subject matter experts. These users are not in Covair all the time. They basically will create incidents and maybe track the status of an incident, and they may update some testing information after an incident's resolved. Then we have what's called Level 3, Enterprise Solution Group, or ESG, and I am actually in this ESG group, and we provide a higher level of process support. We also do configuration in SAP and our systems, And we also are the liaisons if IT development is needed. And then we do have a level 3 ITS, which is the IT developers and technical support. And the reason I wanted to explain those 3 levels is that when you look at our basic process flow for incident management, as I mentioned, it's used to manage break, fix, and maintenance issues. We have a lot of, well, we went live in March, and as of right now, we have about 5,400 incidents in our system. So there's a lot of activity in our incident management module, and we want to make sure that this process that we have here is followed. And the way that we route incidents is by changing the status field. And the status field basically reflects what level is the incident at. For example, is it at level 2? Is it at level 3 ESG? Is it at level 3 ITS, for example? But the basic flow, and there's lots of iterations of this, but the basic flow is that level 2 creates the incident, usually, not always, and that the incidents always have to come into this green box, this level 3 ESG box for review, and sometimes, well, a lot of times ESG resolves the item. But if development is needed, then ESG routes it to ITS. Okay. After it's been resolved, we send it back to level 2 to test and approve the fix, and then we move the fix to production and we close the incident in OSSM. The key control here is that level 2, or basically the end users, they are not allowed to directly interface with ITS. They have to come through this ESG group. So we have to build this into our CoVer configuration. So the way that we control that process to do what we want it to do is not just using that workflow process that Sky just showed you generically, how it's worked, but it's also through the use of these different things that I'm going to show you each one of these. So for example, we have different forms for different users, depending on the group that they're in. We have custom fields that we use. And then we do use the process configuration, which means the workflow configuration. The role configuration, which means who is supposed to be doing what at this point. And then the policy configuration, which lets you do a lot of automated things like anything from generating an email to automatically changing the status on an incident. And I'll show you some of that. We also use the electronic signature fields for certain types of items that are highly sensitive and auditable. And then finally, we have validation policies that allow us to put in some customized edits into our incidents and also into our changes. So the first topic is the use of the different forms. So this screenshot here is showing you that the level 2 users, like I said, they're more like end users of our one-source systems. They don't log into CoVer all the time. There's 250 of these users. They need a simple form to fill out. So we show them the minimum fields required to complete an incident, or I'm sorry, to add an incident. And they don't even actually see some of the required fields. We can even behind the scenes fill in some of the required fields that they don't need to see because it would just confuse them. Additionally, with this level 2 form, we have certain values in the drop-down that we don't want them to select. And so we can limit what values they can select in any drop-down field or selection field by using the custom form. So for example, when a level 2 user is adding an incident down here, they select what is the starting status, or starting point of this incident. And a level 2 user cannot route an incident to level 3 ITS, so they don't even see it as an option. Additionally, we have severity, which indicates how serious is this incident. We don't allow our level 2 users to submit a severity 1 incident because severity 1 means entire system is down, a bunch of notifications are going to go out, directors are going to be notified, the technical team is going to be notified. So we limit this with the custom form. For level 3 users, they have a more complex form slightly with more fields that show up. We capture a lot of metrics information about our incidents and our changes, and so we have a lot of custom fields that we gather information